we now have nation state level sophisticated fraud that's happening, and we're seeing it every single day. I try to let title agents know, if you are closing a transaction, you've got to assume that someone at a nation state level from a bad actor state is tracking your transaction.
You're listening to Closing Market Weekly, the show where real estate closings meet real world insight, with your host Phillip Hogan. And every week we break down the trends, tools, and the timing that keeps deals moving forward. Let's dive in. Hi, I'm Phillip Hogan, your host to Closing Market Weekly, the author to Relentless Excellence, a story of family, business building, and value-driven leadership, and the CEO to Signing Services of America. Welcome to another episode. And man, we have got a star of a guest that's just ready to go. So I'm not going to take any more time. I'm going to do a quick introduction and bring him onto the stage. Rodney Anderson has 30 years in the title industry. He is the executive vice president and national agency manager at Alliant National Title, and he's also served 3 terms as state representative for the great state of Texas. Rodney, welcome to the show.
Phillip, thank you so much for having me, man. It's great to be on.
I'm just jumping in my seat, man, because I can't wait to get into these questions, because you're the right guy for the right information, man. So let's not hold people anymore. Let's go. So you have spent more than 30 years in the title industry or title insurance on both the agent side and the underwriter side.
Yep.
From your perspective as an underwriter, where is fraud actually showing up in closings right now that title companies might not see coming?
Okay, that's a great question, and I want to preface it by saying I've spent time in the closing room as a closer. I owned a title agency at one time. I've literally had someone in my closing room that brought their girlfriend to the closing posing as the wife. I mean, I had that happen.
Wow.
Now, the funny part about that one was when I asked for ID, she said it's out in the car. She went to the car and drove away. That was that had to be one of the funniest times. Just left the guy sitting there. Those were the easy ones to catch. The thing that a lot of folks don't realize about fraud that's happening now in the title industry is that it used to be we were dealing with a son or daughter trying to take mom and dad's property, or mom and dad trying to cut kids out of an inheritance, or brothers and sisters fighting, stuff like that. We used to see that. Right. It has morphed into people criminals realizing just how easy it is to file instruments in the public record, wait a little bit, nobody even knows it's there, and then 6 months later, 8 months later, they sell a property. They sell a property they don't own. And criminals have gotten very sophisticated.
Yes, they have.
Where it's not just where they impersonate someone, that they're going to go and impersonate Rodney Anderson and sell Rodney Anderson's house. They figured out, if all I've got to do is I got to file a special warranty deed or from Rodney Anderson to Phillip Hogan, and then show up let it season a little bit so that it sets the title company at ease that, okay, they've owned it for 6, 8, 9, 12 months. We actually saw one that they owned for almost 2 years. The quote owned, I put owned in air quotes, because they quote owned it for 2 years and then sell it. And as a title agency, you're not looking for that. And then, but what's really happened now, there's a pervasive, what I call Alfred E. Newman look. A lot of title agents have. For those that don't know who Alfred E. Newman is, that's the Mad magazine character whose tagline was, "What, me worry?" We now have nation state level sophisticated fraud that's happening, and we're seeing it every single day. I try to let title agents know, if you are closing a transaction, you've got to assume that someone at a nation state level from a bad actor state is tracking your transaction.
Can you explain how it's being tracked?
It's being done electronically, and that's where I was headed. Is you have a lot of real estate agents, even a lot of mortgage lenders, that instead of using secure email exchanges or email processes, they're using generic. And when I say generic, I don't want to cast stones at whether it's Google or Yahoo or anybody else, but they're using generic email addresses. Just like mine, I have an SBC Global email address, and I assume that that email address is compromised. And so if a title agency is dealing with a realtor or a lender that is using a non-secured email service, you have to go under the assumption that it's being watched. And it's being watched electronically. They come in by just an employee opening a bad email. And they delete it really quickly, thinking that, oh, no harm's been done. Meanwhile, software has been embedded that you have no idea is even in your system, and they are tracking your transactions. We see this from the underwriter perspective. We're seeing this every single day. Now, I work for a company called Alliant National Title Insurance Company. We're a small underwriter, 1% market share across the country. And we're seeing this every single day. I could not imagine what one of the big four, what they are seeing on a daily basis. And all they have to, once these fraudsters are in, once these nation state actors are in, all they're doing is electronically monitoring. They're using AI tools that are highly sophisticated, that then start to impersonate individuals within the real estate transaction process. You have to go under the assumption that they know exactly when your closing is, exactly what your payoff is, exactly when your payoff is being sent, exactly when your seller proceeds are being sent, exactly when the buyer's money is to be wired in. The level of sophistication is one thing I think that is underestimated by title agents, signing companies,
and
everywhere.
people everywhere. And I love your response, and thank you for that. And we can't underestimate the crooks. We go to sleep, we get up, the honest people get up from work from 9 to 5, and they sometimes go to sleep. But the crooks, they have shifts. They work 12 to 12, right? And 24 hours, they're looking for, they're creating scenarios that make you seem as though it's believable for the purposes of being able to rip you off. And we have to be in the settlement space. We've got to be so sharp and so aware every day at every transaction to prevent them from getting in access. And that's why I asked you to come to the show, Rodney, because you have the background to talk about this topic. And I think it's a topic that many people don't spend enough time talking about until something unfortunately happens.
Until it happens to you. Again, it's the Alfred E. Newman, me worry. It's not going to happen to me.
Right.
They're not watching me. They're not trying to do this in rural Texas. Right. I guarantee you they are trying to do it in rural Texas. I talked with a title agent Monday of this week to tell you it's $128,000 total title failure. Seller is out of the country on business in Vietnam. They tell the seller, you've got to go to the consulate. You've got to get the correct documentation from the consulate. So they're following those processes. So the seller, again, in air quotes, the seller then sends all the documents back. Everything looks to be in order, and it closes. 2 days later, the real seller calls and says, "Hey, wait a minute! I've just gotten something that says that I sold my property, and I did not sell my property."
Right.
And this is in rural Texas, $128,000 total title failure that had a first lien payoff. The first lien, fortunately, the first lien lien holder just reinstated the loan with the actual seller or with the actual owner. So about $73,000 of that was recouped from that standpoint. But there's another roughly $50,000 plus the headache and time and effort that goes into it. And this is in rural Texas. Had a one in a far west Texas that seller was in Atlanta. They look and they see that the owner of the property lives in Atlanta. They call from an Atlanta telephone number and say, okay, I'm selling my property. It's 500 acres. The realtor never lays eyes on the actual seller. It's all done by electronic signature. They never lay eyes on them. Yeah. And the closer happened to reach out to us for a traditional underwriting issue that didn't have anything to do with this. And we're like, hey, I just was looking at it going, something seems off. Mm-hmm. Something seems off. And if I could give your listeners one piece of advice to take,
please do.
If you have any thought, if your spidey sense is going off, if you've got a gut feeling that just something's not right, you are probably right.
Right. Yes, you're right.
You are right. And you need to use a fraud identification tool. You need to use probably the best thing that people can do, old school for fraudulent sellers. Mm-hmm. This is when you get an order that comes in, you send a letter to the address where the taxes are being paid. Mm. Whatever's on the tax roll, you send a letter that says, hey, welcome to Alliant National Title Insurance Company. We're proud to have your transaction. Here's your transaction code. Here's the number to call. Call us back with this transaction code, and especially call us if you are not selling your property, because that has stopped more fraudulent sellers in their tracks than any other fraud identification tool. We've seen that used. Now, here's the other thing. You do have to make sure that you get that code back or get that letter back.
Yes.
Because you can send that letter and go, oh, well, we never heard back from the seller, so we just thought it was okay.
Right.
That one, fortunately, was a $25,000 vacant lot sale. And so it was only a $25,000 loss. But that's what we are seeing from I've talked with underwriters all over the country. And this is whether you're in Texas, you're in Georgia, you're in Missouri, you're in the state of Washington.
It doesn't matter.
Maine, it does not matter.
Every state is open to wherever the thieves can, whatever door the thieves can walk through to take your hard-earned property, and they will. So, Rodney, let's move on to question 2. Right. Yeah. All right. So you see what goes wrong after the fact when the claim comes in. What does fraud in a real estate closing actually cost a title company beyond the headline number?
It costs you your reputation. It costs you your health. Mm. It costs you your business. Mm. Depending upon the size, it will bankrupt you. Mm. It can bankrupt you. Depending upon the kind of fraud that it is, sometimes the agent is ultimately responsible. There's nothing that the underwriter can do. For example, a buyer sends their money to the title company that never gets there. Mm-hmm. And there are many examples. Somebody sends their life savings that they're buying a house for the first time, and it's $400,000, and it goes to the fraudster that never hits the title company.
Right.
Because the breakdown occurred at the realtor level, the lender level, the title company level. That's what the courts ultimately decide. And you end up with forensic computer folks that are going in and going, here's where the breach actually occurred. Mm-hmm. And wherever that breach occurred is where ultimate liability is going to rest. Many times it rests on the realtor. Many times it's on the lender. Many times it's on the title company. Mm-hmm. And it never actually hits the underwriter in that case. So from a reputational standpoint, particularly in smaller markets, that your reputation can be absolutely ruined. Your everything you've worked for your entire life could be ruined by a fraudster. And the thing, people go, well, I've got E&O insurance. I've got cyber liability insurance. I will tell you, in most of these cases, those insurers under the E&O policy, the cyber crimes side of the policies, they're going to say, here's the small print that says what you have to do in order to collect, and you weren't doing it. Case in point, do you have two-factor authentication on every email that goes out? That is an actual requirement in some cybersecurity policies that are out there. And people don't have two-factor authentication on every email that goes out. Imagine how you're sending an email and you've got to do two-factor on every single email you send out or you receive. I get 150 a day, give or take.
Right.
And so that policy is written so that they will never have to pay out. So if you're an independent title agent, if you're a signing agent, if you're a notary company, I would encourage you, make sure you know what is in your E&O policy, in your cyber crimes policy, and have someone review it. Alliant National, we have a gentleman that will review any one of our title agents will review their policies for nothing. It doesn't cost them nothing, and he will tell them where their vulnerabilities are.
And so, Rodney, thank you for explaining that. So is nothing wrong with having E&O insurance and cybersecurity policy. What is wrong is not knowing the contents of that policy, reading the policy in its entirety, and really comprehending what that policy is saying it will do and what it won't do. And not assume to say, okay, well, I've got E&O insurance, so we're covered. Well, it sounds really nice that you got, $100,000 policy. What's the parameter of that policy?
Yeah, because this is about the size of your actual policy.
Right.
And you have no idea what's in it. And I also encourage folks to, hey, make sure you're reviewing all of your insurance policies. I learned the hard way. When I ran my own agency, I got a call about 3:00 in the morning. Said, "Hey, your office is flooded." We had a backup of sewer or drain, and buried on like page 75 was a limit of damages. Literally, it was limited to $5,000 for backup of sewer or drain. Well, you can't get a restoration company to come out for less than $5,000. So I called my insurance agent. I said, "Hey, how much would it take to bump that to say 75 or 100,000?" He goes, "Well, you get 100,000 for about $25."
Right. See?
It was that cheap.
Right.
But it was too late because it ended up costing those damages cost me about 30,000. But E&O policies, your cyber insurance policies, make sure you know what is actually in them. What do they actually cover? And making sure you have an expert that knows those types of coverages, not just your insurance agent. Your insurance agent, I love them to death. Hey, this is what we think's in them. Get a third party to tell you what's actually in them. You pay a few $100 to have somebody review it. Get your underwriter to review it. Your underwriter, I don't know if other underwriters do the same thing, but we have an insurance expert on staff that's part of what his job is as the head of our risk management. And why is that important to us? Because as an underwriter, when this stuff happens and you have a $500,000 loss, because these losses tend to be faster, larger, and more complete than your run-of-the-mill title loss, your normal survey issue or squabble that winds up in lawsuits. These pretty much end up being cut and dry. If somebody sold a property they didn't own and you've issued a first lien policy to a lender saying you're in first lien position and now you're not, that's a total title failure.
Right.
Pure and simple. And there's almost no defense. You can say, well, our title agent or our direct operation or our whoever didn't catch it. Our closing agent didn't catch it. Our notary service didn't catch it.
Right.
Those you can make those arguments, but those are still post-loss arguments where the underwriter has to pay them, and then they seek recoupment back either to the agent, the signing service, or whoever they go back to.
Thank you for that. So we've got about 10 questions for you, Rodney. And, our show lasts generally 30, 35 minutes. So I don't think we're going to get through all 10 questions today. But listen, man, you're a rock star, and we would welcome you to come back anytime that you're available to finish answering those questions, so that we can keep our community informed in regard to what goes on in respect to fraudulent activities in the title world. But until we run out of time, we're just going to keep running. Okay?
Yeah, I'm happy to be on anytime we talk about these types of things that we can give education to folks. Happy to do it.
Great. So my third question is, when a closing goes wrong because of fraud, who ends up holding the bag? Walk me through how the liability actually lands.
All right. This is where my favorite saying in the title industry, when people ask me questions about the title industry, my favorite response is, it depends.
Okay.
It depends on the facts of each individual fraudulent transaction.
All right.
It depends on who did it. Was the title agent actually involved in the fraudulent activity?
Right.
Because there are our industry is littered with people behaving badly in our own industry.
Bad characters.
Was the notary involved? We had a case.
I hope not.
Oh my God! I had a case. I get a call from a title agent not long ago, and she says, "Hey, I noticed that there's something wrong here." Long story short, the notary was right in the big fat middle of it. They were using the same notary. A ring was using the same notary to commit seller impersonation fraud. Mm-hmm. And so these were people that would actually use this notary to, and she was getting whatever amount she was getting as part of the deal she was getting. So there's part of that. Now we're starting to see it on refinances, on cash out refinances, where you go to an online lender, never lays eye on the borrower. You do that. The title company does a mail away closing. Instead of going to a reputable signing company, it goes to the principal. They have walk-in documents. And we had a case out of North Carolina, $345,000 gone like that. And and this was on a cash out refinance on a piece of property that the person owned. The first that the homeowner knew was when they said, "Hey, welcome to XYZ Mortgage Company. Your first payment is due on such and so." Like, I didn't borrow any money. $345,000 gone. Who was responsible in that instance? Mm-hmm. In that instance, North Carolina, the closing attorney was the one responsible. Why? Because they did not follow generally accepted processes for verifying who the notary was. And in that case, what the fraudster did not have a notary. The fraudster actually did cut and paste off of other documents using a very, very high quality color printer that looked like an original signature.
Wow.
For the notary piece.
Wow.
For the notary piece. So again, fraud, there's no limit to what these criminals and crooks will do.
That goes back to, Rodney, excuse me, that goes back to what I said earlier, is that the criminals are up 24 hours, 12-hour shifts, thinking about testing new ways to rip people off.
And the really bad part about it is the really bad part about it is you can almost never get a prosecution. You can't find anybody to prosecute them. Why?
No, because they're invisible.
They're well, not only are they invisible, but even when you catch them in the act.
Yeah.
They're hard cases to prove to a jury of 12 people. Because the defense lawyers are really, really good and say he wasn't intending to defraud anybody. Or she wasn't intending to defraud anybody. And I will tell you, if you're a signing agent or you're a title company and you have walk-in documents, Here is almost a dead giveaway, and I almost hate to say it. If you have somebody showing up, quote, wrapped in the cloth, they're doing this for God, this is what they're called to do, you better sit down and make sure you got every I dotted, every T crossed, because I have seen more fraudulent activity from people wrapping themselves in nonprofits and other religious
entities to really
entities.
to work their way into your believability that they're doing the
Right.
right thing for the right reasons.
Credibility. It's like, oh, well, they're doing this for. I hate even saying that, but I mean, it's so prevalent.
Mm,
And so again, to your question, who's actually responsible is it depends.
mhm,
And the good news is when somebody, and I don't care what state you're in, if
mm,
somebody sells property they don't own,
mhm,
the actual owner of the property still owns it. Now, it may be a pain in the neck for them to
mm,
be able to unwind it and to get everything cleaned up. We had a case here in Texas where a state senator, his father died, uh, and somebody sold the family farm
mm,
after his father died. I
mm,
was testifying after I was out of the legislature. I was testifying about this as we passed some protections in Texas, and he shared his own personal experience of how hard it was, even though he himself was a former law enforcement officer. He's an attorney, and hand delivered on a platter. Here's exactly what they did, how they did it, why they did it, how much they benefited from it. And this is a state senator,
mhm.
could not get the local prosecutor
Shooter.
to prosecute it.
Wow.
That's so why do criminals do this? It's lucrative and it's hard to prove, and it's even harder to get people to actually prosecute it.
Mhm.
And so all you got to do is be successful once. And you start talking about these nation state folks, that
Right.
why not? Well, I had
Right.
one, and don't get me started on the banks taking no responsibility. You can call the bank and
Mhm.
tell them, look, this guy, it's fraudulent. What he's doing is fraud. And their response is, he's our customer.
My company does a lot of wires for various reasons. And the institutes that we work with, they're constantly asking a series of questions before the send button is allowed to be pushed. And if you push that button after answering those questions, then guess what?
He's
You're on
gone.
the hook.
Yep.
It's gone and you're on the hook and you're not going to get your money back.
Yep.
So, but for the listeners, if you're wiring any funds and the bank is asking those questions, be patient with that process. Be sure that your information is correct, because once that money goes, it's gone. And you can't go back to the bank and say, oh, well, my money didn't go where it's supposed to go. They're going to say, well, listen, we followed your instructions and
Yep.
you told us it was supposed to go here. So that's why we sent it. And we also had, a series of precautionary questions for you to answer so that you could be assured that you're sending it to the right place.
Yeah, that's where making sure that your whatever fraud detection system that you're using, and I'm not going to say various brands or anything like
Yeah.
that, but
Yeah.
if you're not using a fraud detection and an account verification tool as part of your settlement process,
Yeah.
you're taking the Alfred E. Newman, what, me worry? You
Right.
better be verifying that the account number that you're sending to
Mm,
ties directly to the name of your entity
mm,
every single time, or the name of your borrower, and making sure that you're not only single checking it, but double checking it, triple checking it,
mm,
because the fraudsters are getting. We actually saw one not long ago where a fax. Lenders still like to use faxes. The lender will send the fax payoff. About 5 minutes later, another faxed payoff comes in. Looks almost identical. The only thing is a couple of changes on the account number. Shock.
mhm.
And the closer or the escrow assistant just, okay, I got the second one. They used the second one. The second one was a fraudulent wire transfer. It was wiring instructions, or
Wow.
payoff instructions. It was
Mhm,
fraudulent.
mhm.
And so if they had used a detection tool that actually ties the account number to the name, to the institution, it would have caught that electronically. There are tools out there that will do that for you. And I would encourage you as a settlement agent to do that on every single transaction that involves a wire.
That's good advice. So Rodney, we're just about our time up on this episode, and it's been some fantastic information, and we've got a bunch of other questions that I know you would love to answer, and we would love to have you come back at a time that your schedule allows. And I'm sure the audience is enjoying what you have shared and wants to hear more. But until we have you come back, if someone would like to contact you, what's the best way you would like someone to contact you?
The easiest way for me, there are two different ways. My name is Rodney Anderson. You can find me. I have a political page, Rodney at rodneyanderson.org. That's always easy. But my cell phone is easy. It's 214-293-8067. I've had that number for 3 decades. Call me at that number. You can send me an email at randerson@alliantnational.com. That's my work email address. I try to stay very accessible. And make sure, though, that if you do go out to Rodney at rodneyanderson.org, you go to .org. Don't go to .com. That's a mortgage guy who's actually based here in Dallas. And there's a funny story. He and I used to work at the same company. And
I know that was crazy.
He was in the mortgage side. I was in the title side. And so I used to introduce myself when I was running for office. My name is Rodney Anderson. No, I'm not a loan officer. You can't get a mortgage from me, but you can go to .com. You go to him. .org is mine. I've had that for a long, long time. And so, but that's the easiest way. It's Rodney at rodneyanderson.org, and it's not or randerson at alliantnational.com. I'm easy to find.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Okay, listen, audience. So here you heard from Rodney Anderson, who's talking about, fraud in the title industry. And I think he's an expert on the topic, and we couldn't have had a better guest to talk about a very, very untalked about topic that needs to have more attention to it, because more and more people are being impacted and affected by fraud in the title space. So Rodney, listen, we'll see you on another one. And as far as my audience, you have tuned in to Closing Market Weekly. Thank you as always, and we see you on the next episode. Bye now.
Enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to the Closing Market Weekly. If you found this episode valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone in the industry. For more insights from the front lines of real estate closings, we'll see you next week.